My name is John Korsrud. I'm a composer, trumpet player in Vancouver. My favorite album? Well, that's a tough one. There's many. I'll go with Bitches Brew, Miles Davis's Bitches Brew from the late 60s, because the painting itself is quite surreal. Apparently it's the same painter that did Santana's Abraxas album, so it's quite psychedelic and quite surreal, very much like his music, which is very controversial and groundbreaking at the time, and very psychedelic. And it was really the first combining of like avant-garde jazz and rock elements, and it's one of those musics where every time I hear it, I hear something different. When I first heard it when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old, it terrified me, but now it's one of my favorite albums now. My favorite performer? Well, there's many of them. I come from more of the jazz classical world, so we don't really have performers, so to speak. So I was going to say my favorite performers were like Stan Smeal from the Vancouver Canucks back in the 70s, because he just kind of goes out there and just gives it his all every time. But likewise, jazz performers who do that are like people like saxophonist Michael Brecker and trumpet player Freddie Hubbard. Guys who just kind of dig in there and give it their all. My favorite singer? Well, funny, the music that I listen to is not so much vocal oriented, so I don't really have very many favorite singers. I mean, I love people like Frank Sinatra and all that sort of stuff, especially when I'm inviting female friends over and stuff like that. But really, there's one singer who lives in Amsterdam. She's originally from Toronto. Her name is Barbara Hannigan. She's probably the greatest interpreter of modern repertoire in the world right now, and she's just phenomenal and amazing, and she blows me away. My favorite gig is audience member. Well, there'll be lots to choose from, but I'm going to go with my very first time I was ever blown away at a concert. I think I was 16 or 17 at the Coliseum, and I saw Earth, Wind & Fire. And I was already a big fan of theirs. I knew their music really well. I was excited they were coming, and they incorporated all this magic in the show. But like the bass player would do a solo, and he'd levitate and explode, and the music would turn off, and they would go back on, and you know, all in different odd costumes. So it was quite cool, quite cool. My least favorite show as a performer, hasn't been too many. But I'll go with my very first ever gig when I was 19. I went on the road with an Elvis impersonator up to Prince George in Calgary, and it was just the first gig ever was at the Newton Inn in Newton for a week, and then we went to Prince George, and it was just awful. Like Elvis, he was an Elvis impersonator. He lost his voice, and then he came up here, and we're just playing like the rattiest bars, and it was the most surreal, awful horror show. And after that, I said, that's it. I'm not going to be a musician. I'm going to get an education degree. But luckily I changed my mind, and everything's been smooth sailing ever since then. Well, my favorite thing, the thing I really enjoy doing the most, I live just a few blocks from Commercial Drive, so I like to get up and I like to get a great cup of coffee, and I usually pick one, and I go to one every 4 months, and lately I've been going to Renzo's on the corner there. I get a coffee, and I just like to come to the park here, just kind of wander the Commercial Drive. I've been here for 15 years, and I love it. And I love Vancouver, and this is my favorite neighborhood in the city.